Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. The race for the top four in Serie A took another twist as Inter moved ahead of Milan with an impressive 3-2 victory in the Milan derby. How did Inter do it? Where did Milan go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Inter beat Milan. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down the first half, see where Inter were able to get their advantage and why they were able to have such an impressive opening 45 minutes. Then move to the second half, see what tactical changes Milan made and how Inter were able to kill off the game. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Milan, no real surprises here. Suso, Piatek, and Calhanoglu up front. In midfield, Paqueta, Bakayoko, and Frank Kessie. Then we move to Inter, what should have been a 4-3-3, somewhat looked like a 4-4-1-1, 4-2-3-1, with Latauro Martinez just ahead of Vecino. Out in the wider areas, Perisic and Politano, and deeper in midfield, Brozovic and Gagliardini. So now let's get to the first half, see how both sides look to approach the game, and why Inter were so impressive in the opening 45 minutes. So we break down Inter against Milan. We have to look to how both sides look to approach the game based on the fact that it did play a key factor in the end result. We look at Inter, they are what should have been a 4-3-3, ended up being more of a 4-4-1-1 with Vecino playing a bit higher, but they weren't looking to press as high, only from goal kicks, and that's where we did see Milan look to try and play beyond them, but not really carving them open. But we did see great defensive jobs in wider areas from Politano, who was doing a good job on Ricardo Rodriguez. We look at Vecino, and he was sticking near Bakayoko unless Bakayoko dropped off a bit deeper, and then we would see him retreat into midfield 3, because what would happen there is that they could have Latauro step to him to ensure that he wasn't able to get on the ball from deeper positions. Bakayoko not really renowned for his passing, for his wide passing range, so that wasn't a big issue for them, but that was how they were looking to really go about things. Keep it tight, keep the midfield battle in check, which would see Gagliardini step to Frank Kessie, who never really pushed forward either, and he dropped off a bit deeper, and perhaps that was to allow Calabria to step forward, because what we ended up having was Suso was tucking in narrow ahead of Asamoah. You'd have Calabria push a bit forward, and that was their outlet to get him out into those wider areas, because on the other side, we would have Calhanoglu drift into central areas. At times, Milan technically did look like a 4-2-3-1, because you would have Calabria push forward, Suso more narrow. You would have Calhanoglu drifting into midfield, more so like a number 10, which would allow Rodriguez to push forward. And you would have Frank Kessie keep his position, whereas Paqueta was pushing forward as well in those higher positions. So that's sometimes what Milan did look like on occasions when they were pushing forward, but they were unable to really breach Inter's backline. Their most common passing move did see Musacchio constantly play forward passes into Piatek, who often did do a good job when you break it down, dropping off ahead of Skriniar, who did stick tight on him, and he was often linking play out into wider areas. But besides that, he was monitored really well by the Inter backline, didn't cause them any real significant problems, lacking the bit of creativity and the support that he often got in earlier games this season, but it wasn't happening here. Calhanoglu, will get to him when we break down some of Milan's brief openings in a bit, but that was kind of how Milan were going about it, but Inter were comfortable. We even saw Paqueta drop off at some point a bit deeper, and Vecino was able to dispossess him, so that was his role. Brozovic and Gagliardini were totally fine with dropping off, and the wider players did a decent job, although Calabria was always the outlet to play balls to, where he was able to deliver crosses into the box that the Inter Milan defense were able to deal with. Milan, on the flip side, were sticking to what they have been doing, pressing a bit higher from the front. So that means if Piatek was looking to step to Skriniar, you would have Paqueta as the spare center back or the spare central midfielder pushing forward to try and press. Sometimes what that would lead to, obviously, is that Suso now would step out to Asamoah, and D'Ambrosio would get harried by also his marker in Paqueta if that didn't work out there, or sometimes you'd see Çalhanoğlu move into those spaces. But the biggest problem that Milan were having was that as they were pushing a bit higher, there were gaps in midfield that were being exploited. What Inter was always capable of doing was that they were able to drop Brozovic into deeper positions to make a 3v2 if Paqueta did push high to try to get on the center back. And now they had a big problem, because what was happening was that sometimes we would see Bakayoko step forward from a holding role that he should be playing to step to Brozovic, and that would obviously leave the player most highest in midfield in Vecino to have space to drop into to get the ball. And when we would see Bakayoko do this, he would eventually drop off a bit deeper. There was one time where we saw Frank Kessie push forward into that space, and what Brozovic was able to do was able to bypass him easily and play the ball into Gagliardini. The AC Milan midfield was very disjointed because you had Paqueta playing a bit too higher, looking to step to either de Vrij or stepping to D'Ambrosio, and that left space in midfield, and they didn't have an idea how to pick up Brozovic. But as we often saw in that opening period, was that with this shape, with Paqueta playing a bit higher, with Kessie looking to deal with Gagliardini who was pushing forward, and Bakayoko stepping up a bit higher to block off passes from Brozovic, was that there was space in the wider areas or in midfield for Vecino. So when we break down Inter's opening chances, we look to the goal that was scored in the opening 3 minutes. It's de Vrij getting the ball and Paqueta half-heartedly pressing him, and what de Vrij is able to do is play the ball beyond Çalhanoğlu for D'Ambrosio. So D'Ambrosio now is getting harried by Çalhanoğlu as he tries to recover, but with Paqueta stepping to de Vrij, that leaves space to the left of Bakayoko for Vecino, and that's where the pass goes. Vecino gets it between the lines. He's able to try and clip across into the box, but it is blocked. But what we end up seeing here is that Perisic makes a run across midfield into the right half space, and now we see the ball poked to him, and he gets across Rodriguez to get that ball, and he holds it off. And what we see is Romagnoli step to him. We have Latauro pulling off Calabria at the far post, and we have Vecino breaking in behind, breaking across Bakayoko into the box. Perisic instantly clips his cross into the box of the far post, and we see Latauro nod over Calabria to send it across goal, and who gets it? Vecino breaking into the box unmarked. Musacchio was pulled out to the far post to try and save what was happening with Calabria on that side. You had Romagnoli ball watching. You had Frank Kessie at the box, not picking up anyone, and Vecino ran behind Bakayoko. But that was a great example as to how Vecino was able to make an impact between the lines and how Inter were going about their business. We look to another opportunity where we see this time Brozovic, like I said, drop in and split the central midfielders, and what happened, or split the center backs, and what happens here is that Skriniar is now able to play a pass in between Kessie and Suso for Perisic, who's dropping off ahead of Calabria. And when he drops off ahead of Calabria, he drops it into the path of Gagliardini, who now is able to slide a pass across Bakayoko and Paqueta for Vecino. Just like that, Paqueta again a bit too high, and when he steps forward as they try to press from the front, Vecino was able to pick up the ball, and that leads to another break. Shortly after that, we look to another opportunity. It stems from a Çalhanoğlu poor touch, but Paqueta is already high up the pitch, and Politano now is able to run at Ricardo Rodriguez. And as he runs at Rodriguez, he's able to cut in on Bakayoko and play a pass in between Bakayoko and Kessie for Vecino, breaking into that space in between them. Breaks into there, lays it off to Politano, who fires a low shot at goal that Donnarumma does do a good job to keep hold of. But again, no one has an idea how to pick up Vecino. No one's doing it. Paqueta's being caught out high. Bakayoko has to cover too much ground around him, and Kessie is kind of dealing with Gagliardini and trying to shift in when need be, but that isn't working for them. We look to one more opportunity from just a short free kick. All we see here is Brozovic step to it, play it in between Paqueta and Bakayoko. Vecino already there between the lines. As simple as that. That's a big problem for Milan. He's able to slide it across Frank Kessie for Perisic, who drops off to get it ahead of Calabria. And what happens there is that pulls out Musacchio. And as Vecino continues his run, what happens is that when the pass is played back into him, Romagnoli was able to step in. But we look to those opportunities and we see how Inter were able to break in behind. There were several opportunities in general where Vecino were able to find that space to the left of Bakayoko because Paqueta was trying to press higher from the front, and that was a big problem for Milan. So now let's get to Milan, see how they were able to find some opportunities or some good showings and why they were unable to really make an impact in that opening half. When we look to Milan, a lot of their chances did stem from the center backs pushing forward because they were the free ball carriers based on the fact as to how Inter were dropped off into more of their 4-4-1-1. Because like I said, everyone kind of had their man. They were more organized in that sense. Like I said, Vecino near the deepest midfielder. You had Brozovic and Gagliardini taking out the shuttlers, and then the wide players doing their job there. Because when we look to some of Milan's chances, the first one, a Kessie loose ball played into Piatek, who was able to hold it off and lay it off ahead of Skriniar for Paqueta, who then is able to get away from Brozovic and fire a shot on goal. But that again is just the ability to use Piatek's back against the wall and his ability to link up play with Paqueta to skip past the challenge to get an opportunity there. That was one way they did go about it. Another way was that, again, we'll look to the defenders that were able to push forward. Romagnoli finding Çalhanoğlu stepping ahead of Politano. So he steps ahead of Politano, and what we end up seeing here is Bakayoko making an impressive run ahead of de Vrij from his advanced role, as we could see. Bakayoko steps in there. We have Çalhanoğlu poke the ball in between Politano and Brozovic to Bakayoko, and what happens is that he runs off Brozovic and gets the ball from Bakayoko across Brozovic, and what happens is that he lays it off for Bakayoko to fire a low shot on goal that doesn't test the keeper, but again, just gets to show you how Milan were kind of trying to go about things. We did see Çalhanoğlu constantly make that run into central areas. One time we saw Musacchio find Kessie ahead of Gagliardini, and he played it into Çalhanoğlu in between the lines, but nothing came from that opportunity. Another time we ended up seeing Musacchio again looking to find Bakayoko this time, and what happened is that he was just to the left of Gagliardini. He was able to hold him off and play the ball into Çalhanoğlu one more time, but he was dispossessed following a poor touch by Skriniar. That was kind of how they were going about things. We saw them try to drop off into spaces ahead of the Inter back four or the Inter midfield bank of four, but nothing was really going for them. One of their better opportunities where they were able to kind of stop Brozovic from dropping off a bit deeper. Saw Piatek moved forward. Skriniar was able to play it into Brozovic. Brozovic had a poor touch. We had Bakayoko leaving Gagliardini on this one roll where he was actually pressing him, and Piatek steps in to poke the ball into Bakayoko, and as he drove forward, he was eventually shrugged off the ball by Gagliardini and players coming back to ensure that he couldn't make the final pass. But that was kind of Milan's problem. They had no real creativity from central positions. Yes, Bakayoko did play well, getting the ball, evading challenges, pushing them forward, but he had a difficult role based on the fact that he had to drop off deeper to focus on Vecino. We didn't get much from Kessie, who was dropped off a bit deeper. Paqueta struggled in that opening half. Suso was practically anonymous as Calabria pushed forward. So Milan had some real issues going into halftime. So now let's get to the second half, see what changes Gattuso made and how Inter were able to kill it off. So the start of the second half did see Gattuso turn to his bench. He ended up bringing on Castillejo for Paqueta. They moved to a 4-4-2, which saw Castillejo play off of Piatek with Çalhanoğlu looking to step in centrally and Suso from the right. However, nothing really helped out Milan in that regard because they were still having issues in midfield with Bakayoko and Kessie not being able to pick up Vecino in those central areas. And when you really break it down, Inter had some of the better chances. You had the throw-in that we saw Gagliardini combined with Asamoah to get away from Suso, and Kessie never stepped, and Gagliardini did have a great shot on goal. Then shortly after that, a poor Suso pass that hit off Kessie that we ended up seeing Vecino slide the ball into Latauro, who ran at both center backs and cut in and out on Musacchio before having his shot blocked. But besides that, the second half was about set-piece execution. execution. We look to Inter's second goal. It stems from a short corner, and it's Politano who's able to get the 2v1 with Brozovic over Suso to deliver a quality cross into the box, and that led to the second goal. We look to Çalhanoğlu's devastating free kick from a deeper position that saw Bakayoko had a superb goal in past Handanovic, and eventually we saw Milan move again to the bench, and they brought on Cutrone. That ended up seeing a lot of changes. Kessié moved to right back, we saw Calabria move to left back, and we saw Çalhanoğlu move into central midfield for Bakayoko to get a bit more of a passing range from those deeper positions. However, Cutrone never really offered much, just doesn't have the ability to hold up the ball, to link play. There was no real combination with Piatek, who again seemed a bit isolated. However, what we ended up seeing was that Suso was a bit more involved as the game wore on, but Inter were able to kill off the game before that even happened. And how did that stem? Well, what we ended up seeing was, from a deeper position, we have D'Ambrosio dropping in between Çalhanoğlu and in between Castillejo to move to a central position to get a pass from a deeper position from Brozovic. And what happens there is that he ends up sliding it out to Politano, who's able to run past his marker in Calabria. And as he breaks into the box, Castillejo does drop off and he fouls him in the penalty area. And that was kind of how they killed it off, because when you look to how Milan were able to get back into the game, short corner, Suso delivers a cross into the box, hits off Skriniar, then it does fall to Musacchio to finish from point blank range. Eventually, Inter brought on Brozovic, took off Brozovic and brought on Borja Valero to offer more of a ball retention presence in the midfield, and that's how they were really trying to kill off the game, with Borja playing in that role. However, Milan had one more opportunity in the dying seconds of the game. It's Suso from a deeper position cutting away from Perisic, and we do see Piatek drag out de Vrij, and Castillejo's able to get across Calabria to tower over him to nod the ball towards goal. However, nothing really stemmed there. That was one of their greater opportunities. Handanovic did make the save, and that was how the game ended. When we break it down as a whole, this game was stemmed based off the fact that Inter Milan's defensive organization without the ball was superior to Milan's. They knew their roles, they executed it well, whereas for Milan, the pressing wasn't great, they struggled in midfield, and they had no answers for Vecino's movement. And as the game wore on, that was what really burned them, and the same issues arise here. Piatek is a great signing, but you need to find him service, you need creativity in that midfield, and they somewhat lack it this season. But let me know what you guys think. Which of these two sides will finish higher in the table, and do any of them have a chance of finishing outside of the top four? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.